Yeah.
I think we're live. I have not checked.
It looks like it.
It's good to meet you, Ella.
Likewise. Thanks for having me.
So, who is Ella? Who are you?
Who is Ella? Ella is a Swedish-speaking Finn living in Copenhagen who started an initiative to bring more women into entrepreneurship, and that's what I'm here to talk about today, I think.
A Swedish-speaking Finn.
Yes,
Where
indeed.
and how? Yes, in Finland you learn to speak Swedish, don't you?
Yes, well, everyone learns to speak Swedish, but I speak it as a first language. I'm part of a minority in Finland that speaks Swedish as the first language.
Okay.
We're not that many. I think around 5%.
5%. But you speak Finnish.
I do, but not as well. Not as well as Swedish.
Yeah, isn't it really hard, Finnish? I understand Norwegian, I understand Swedish, no problem.
Yeah.
Finnish,
Yeah.
not at all. It's completely different.
You don't stand a chance. No. The Nordic languages don't help you if you try to understand Finnish. There's no way. It's related to some other languages, Estonian, Hungarian, like that way.
It's in that family.
Yeah.
So you live in Denmark, Copenhagen right now?
I live here, yes, since 6 years. I've been here.
6 years. What brought you? Studies?
Yeah, initially my studies, and then I never managed to leave again.
No, managed.
You said you lived here too, so it's a pretty good.
I might
city.
come back. It's really nice. And so you are interested in helping more females into entrepreneurship.
I am indeed, yes. So together with some other women, we started an initiative with purpose to help, women take the first step.
When did that idea get born? Was the first time you thought about we need more females in entrepreneurship?
I don't know if it's the first time we talked about it, but I think the first time we decided to do something about it was around 2 years ago. And it started as a very casual conversation. I was just sitting in a cafe with a friend working on something else, and we're both very passionate about gender equality and also about we both worked in entrepreneurship, and she studied it too. So she had for a while, I think, had this idea that something should be done about this. And then we were sitting there in the cafe and we were like, yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
So 2 years ago, I think the seed was planted.
But what was it? You said something that had to be done. What was it? Was it that you saw some inequality, some injustice, some that we need more women in this field, or what was it? Do you have a specific topic, incident, or was it just like you started talking about it?
I don't know that there was like a specific incident that ignited this or like made us start, but I mean, I think the conversation was kind of around how, the Nordics are world leaders in gender equality on so many parameters. But then when you look at gender equality in entrepreneurship, it's just a whole different story. It's actually the Nordics, first of all, are lagging behind a lot of other countries in that. And also the numbers are quite staggering in terms of, how many women actually enter entrepreneurship, but also then once they enter entrepreneurship, how much funding they get, for instance, while they're there, and how they're just treated in a quite biased environment because most entrepreneurs are men.
Yeah, I didn't know about the statistics. I looked on your website and it's like ridiculous. So it's 1.4 goes to female startup teams. Am I correct? Was it that?
1.4% of VC funding. Is that what you're talking about?
1.4%. Yeah. That means
it's always somewhere around that 1-2% in the Nordics. Yeah.
That means 17% goes to mixed teams.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And then 72% to male-only teams.
Yeah. Isn't it crazy?
50 times more to male only teams. That's not like there's a little bit of inequality there here, like men are 70% more. No, it's like men get 5,000% more.
Yeah, it's really crazy. But that is like when you look at those numbers, you have to kind of look once and you're like, nah, it can't be true. And then you look again and yeah, it's true. You read a few reports and they all kind of say that. So I think it's true. And I mean that statistic becomes, it's also relevant to say that there are less women in entrepreneurship, right? So it's not that strange that they also receive less funding. But if you look at Denmark, for instance, I think here there are around 24% women. Like out of all entrepreneurs, 24% are women, and still they receive only between 1% and 2% of the VC funding. So there are several, steps
Yeah.
where there are problems.
Yeah, exactly. Often when they have these numbers, there's not equality between men and women, like in leadership, but then there may be 10% of the employing force that are women. But here it's like, if you look at how many women are in the entrepreneurship, as the numbers are still really ridiculous, because it should be 24% going to female founded teams.
Right. Even more, you'd hope you'd encourage it somehow.
But how? I don't understand, because before this, my perception was that the females have an advantage because you stand out. You're often you're more charming. Men are more likely to invest in you, but that's not the case.
Are you asking why there are less?
Yeah, have you done some research, or do you have some idea what are the main problems or the main issues here? Is it just why?
We have. I mean, we haven't done that much of our own research, but I've read a lot of reports on it, and I think, I mean, we with Purpose is mainly focused on bringing more women into entrepreneurship. So we're mainly interested in what are the reasons that you don't start your company to begin with as a woman. And I think there's one thing I want to say before I start saying how women are and how they aren't, and it's that I always struggle a little bit with this conversation saying like, okay, women are this way and hence blah blah, because obviously women are individuals and men are individuals, and we should all have the opportunity to become exactly what we want. But then we are still caught in some social constructs, and I think that those just shape women into statistically being a bit different than men in certain areas. And what we see, for instance, is that women are a little bit more risk averse than men, and that's not good if you're going into entrepreneurship, because obviously it's a very, very risky environment, and you have to be ready to fail and fail again before you succeed. But also then, because there are so few women in entrepreneurship to begin with, you don't really have role models to look up to show you kind of what does a female entrepreneur look like. Is an entrepreneur necessarily, this typical white Silicon Valley, Harvard dropout guy who has a stay-at-home partner who takes care of his kids so he can focus on working around the clock? Or are there different models to be an entrepreneur? And then finally, women also just have smaller networks in terms of, both investors, but other female entrepreneurs, and they just have less access to kind of to the entrepreneurial community. So that's kind of in the characteristics. But then there are also obviously a lot of other biases in the environment, and one big problem is that it's a little bit of a self-reinforcing loop that most investors are also men, and male are more likely to invest in a male solution because that's what you recognize the person, you trust the person, but also you recognize the solution they've developed because you can understand the need for it. So even if you as a woman enter entrepreneurship, you face a lot of biases after you've gotten there. So it also is then even more risky for women to become entrepreneurs because it's just that much harder.
Yeah, Yeah, I totally get that women are more risk adverse. That's probably cultural, and of course, it's so good you can get some female role models,
Yeah.
so to women to look up to, and also that men don't invest in. I think it's ridiculous that because also if you look at half of the market, it's women,
Yeah.
and women know women. So
Yeah.
if I wanted to hire, if I had a female product and I wanted to hire a hire a marketer, I would
Yeah.
100% go after a female. Or
Yeah.
if there was a solution where it was mostly female, or at least half of the people who are going to solve the solution should know females. So therefore, I think it's not just on the fairness level, but on the level of know the market, the solutions, who can create the solutions to the market. And women have so much buying power, and they are decision makers often in the relationship in so many levels.
It's a funny example though. Women in a relationship.
That's all I look at it as. I have a very pragmatic approach to why it does not make any sense.
Yeah. Yeah, very hands-on. No, but yeah, you're right. I think that's an interesting point, is that I think oftentimes when we talk about women in anything and gender equality, it's always addressed as a minority issue. But women are more than half of the world's population. It's not a minority issue. It's not a, like you say, also it's not a charity case. Of course, I think there's an element to it that is, the world should, our values are that we should all have equal rights and opportunities as a society, I would hope. And I think that should already be enough to encourage, eliminating these types of discrepancies. But also there is just a huge business case in bringing more women into entrepreneurship, right? Like you say, women know women. You can, as a woman, you can design solutions that other women need in a completely different way than men. And I think there's one of my favorite books is called Invisible Women. It's around gender data gaps.
Yeah.
Her name is Caroline C. Perez, the author, and she brings in some really interesting examples. I think the first one she talks about is the iPhone Health app, and how that app has all these obscure data points on your health, but because it was designed by men, no one thought of, okay, maybe we should have period data also included in this. And that's something that half of the world's population is sort of interested in, and a lot of us are using in an external app. So it's just a funny realization that, okay, we forgot that part when we have like these craziest data points. If you go in there, that you have no idea what they mean, but also then the other example she uses is that for the longest time, there weren't really any modern breast pumps on the market, because that was just not something that the male investors or the male entrepreneurs were particularly interested in investing or developing in. And that's, I think, a great example of a pretty huge market that you tap into if you develop a breast pump that actually meets the needs of women. There are quite a few mothers out there in the world that I think would be interested in having one that works for them. So those are, I think, two good examples to highlight exactly what you said, that women know women, and it's not a minority market in any way.
Yeah. So with purpose, when did it really start?
I think we started quite quickly, actually. After the idea, we quickly had a team who was interested in helping, or who had kind of realized this problem as well. And I think with purpose, we've had that luxury that it's so apparent that there is a problem that it doesn't take much, selling to others to explain that there is a huge need for us to do something about this. Almost 2 years ago, and we hosted our first startup school. So we've been hosting these 6-week programs for cohorts of women, where they go through a little program where they learn, the first steps of building a business, and also then get to know each other a little bit to help with building networks. They have access to mentors, etc. So the first one was almost 2 years ago.
Is it a live school or is it virtual? How does it work?
We've had some different variations on it, actually. So it's always been virtual because we started it during Corona. So there wasn't really any other option. But then we've had sort of a combination of an e-learning platform that you can do at your own pace, and then live sessions where we have speakers on different topics come in and talk on those topics and answer the women's questions. And then we are also hosting some live events. Actually, we have one next week. I should probably say in this.
Yeah,
So for anyone based in Copenhagen, it's next Wednesday. We have an event on failures in entrepreneurship and what we can learn from them.
Yeah, where is it going to be?
Actually, I have to look up the address. Can I write it somewhere afterwards? In Copenhagen.
Yeah,
City
put
center.
it in the comments on the live.
Yeah, I will.
And on failures, is it did you say?
Yeah, exactly. So the idea is that we spoke about this risk, that women are risk averse. So what we wanted to do, kind of a fun event series where we demystify failing a little bit and make it normalize it and just kind of highlight a few examples of how failures are a part of any entrepreneurial journey. And we have some women entrepreneurs who are coming in and talking about their failures and also what they learned from them. And it will be very informal and jolly.
Yeah, I think it's so important that you, in a way, rewire your brain for entrepreneurship. So you like go ahead and you expect failures.
Yeah.
That's the way I got
really
into entrepreneurship was tip-based tour guiding. So if you're bad, people leave. Like if you suck, you're all alone. You don't get anything out of it. So you get a lot of rejection, and it's all performance-based. So I think if someone has to prepare for entrepreneurship, you can get a job in sales, phone sales, or those who stop people on the streets. Also do things like that, or at least when you're an entrepreneur, take every opportunity to reach out. If you think you should call, should I call, not call, try calling. Always try, even if there's a minimum chance. At least you get practice.
Yeah.
So it's so important, and it's especially for women, because I think women are more by culture like wired to. You have to look nice, you have to behave. You cannot go out of the box.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, so that's what we're hoping to change with this series. And I think we'll also open it up at one point so that anyone can come there and talk about their failures. So if you're really, really into challenging yourself, then that is also an option. We'll host them, I think, every month or every second month.
No, it sounds so good. You do it like almost stand-up comedy. People come and share their failures.
Yeah, exactly. But no pressure to be funny. It can be funny, but it doesn't have to.
Yeah, but I think it's inevitable. I don't have a lot of
Yeah, you might be right.
So it's a 6-week crash course with purpose. Is it that?
Yes. So actually, we've changed the concept a little bit now. So we're still we're opening up for a new cohort in a couple of weeks. But this time it will be a bit more self-paced. So we will actually not have any live sessions, but you will have access to the e-learning content for a certain amount of time. And then the way it will work is that once you complete a certain amount of modules, you will have access to mentors. And if you complete the whole course, then we'll have some other deals that you get access to. But and then of course we'll keep hosting the community event, so that you can meet other women in entrepreneurship or who are interested in it. But it won't be this 6-week program where every week you have to deliver something. You can pace it a bit more yourself, because one recognition that we had, speaking of learning from your failures, is that the women that we target are busy. They have full-time jobs, full-time commitments. And they don't necessarily have time to follow a program like that. So we wanted to make it really flexible to fit into anyone's schedule. I should highlight that it's completely free.
Completely free, but you have to commit.
you have to preferably commit. I mean, the way we've done it now is that unless you complete the modules, you don't get access to kind of these carrots. But there's no other kind of commitment to it. It's a very opt-in positive type of commitment.
Yeah. Is it for all the Nordics, or what's the geographical area?
Yeah, exactly. All the Nordics. Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Technically, you can also participate from other places because it's all online, right? But we are building a community here in the Nordics, so we are going to host events around the Nordics, etc. So it's just going to be a more interesting program if you're actually based here. And what was I gonna say? Yeah, so everything is in English. You also don't have to be a Nordic citizen. It's enough that you live here and speak English. Everything is in English.
Why is it called With Purpose?
So it's been called With Purpose from the start. It's actually, we never really thought about it that much. It's, I think it came from this, that women tend to build that are sort of like a purpose-driven angle to them. And initially, our idea was to focus on only helping women who have, a purpose angle to them, to their solution. But it turns out that almost all of them do. So it was a completely redundant, criteria. So now we're no longer explicit about that having to be a criteria, but that's where it came from originally.
Yeah, I think as well, if you have like a purpose, you're really clear what you're doing. It helps a lot with your confidence, and it helps with networking and finding like partners in entrepreneurship. Because
yes, exactly.
You clearly feel the vibe on someone if they like really are passionate about what they're doing, or if they're just very transactional. So I think if you get really clear on your purpose and you truly believe in it, as first off, it's gonna your fuck ups are not gonna feel that bad because you find your cost.
You keep pushing, yeah.
and people who are like have the same vision, you're gonna vibe with them much easier. So it's way easier to find partners, to find investors if you get really clear on your purpose.
Yeah.
And it's totally true what you're saying, because I never met a female entrepreneur who's not very like. I'm into sustainability and the green energy and the circular economy and all this stuff, which is really good to us. It's because it's the future. It's also smart. Like I'm very focused on green energy because it's good. It's good for the planet, but it's not only because like I have a green heart. It's also smart business wise, because you want to be where the world is going. You don't want to be where it's not going.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it helps. Helps if you want to make money in the future.
So how large is With Purpose?
Depends on what you look at. So we are not for profit. We don't make any money. So in that sense, not large. But we've hosted around 60 women in the cohorts so far.
Yeah.
And hope to host even more this time as we're building a more flexible program. And then we have a pretty big following on LinkedIn and social media, if that's something you want to look at. But that is also important to us because one of the things we want to do is also to kind of demystify female entrepreneurship in a more advocacy related way. So kind of spreading the entrepreneurship, what does a female entrepreneur look like? What are the opportunities for you, etc. So that's what we're using the LinkedIn and Facebook channels, Instagram channels for.
And what's the long-term vision for With Purpose?
So currently we're only focused on bringing more women into the entrepreneurship, and we only support them in the very beginning of their journey, right? I think the long-term dream would be to be able to support them much longer, and hopefully until they at least are ready to get funding, and hopefully also through that, so that they can they've actually come quite far in building the business. So long-term dream is to become kind of a one-stop shop for women who are interested in entrepreneurship and who are also established entrepreneurs, and not just women who are curious. And I think that will also naturally happen, because I mean, the women that go through the program will start maturing and will be hopefully able to offer them also support then down the line.
So back to what we talked about in the beginning, that so little investment was going to women. Have you seen any change since you started, or what do male investors, what do people say who invest? Like if they ask, how much have you invested in women, or why haven't you invested more, or what do they say about it?
So answer to your first question, no, I haven't seen any difference. I mean, you can also look at the reports there. Things haven't really changed in the last couple of years. It's stagnated on this level, which is sad. And I think to your second question, there's a couple of reasons why there is not more investment into women. And the first one is what we already talked about. It's the bias that you invest in what you know, and we don't have to talk more about that. But then I think there's a second reason, and it is that the whole investment market is kind of geared towards the type of solutions that are built typically by men. And again, typically. But if you look at aggregated numbers, women tend to build perhaps a bit slower growing companies that grow more organically. They're more purpose driven, and they're not always great VC investment cases. And that's the number that we talked about, right?
Yeah. Well, what I'm thinking is, so they're thinking, okay, it's very sweet, but are you going to bring me ROI? Is that what they're thinking?
Yeah, exactly. It's I mean, this is what I've heard from VC investors, that they're just lucrative options in their pipeline also. But of course, they maybe don't speak to the bias. But I think also in the VC environments, there are a lot of efforts to, and of course, they are also very, very aware of both kind of the opportunities in female solutions, but also in how terrible the numbers are currently.
Do you with purpose do anything to make women more business-minded and more grow the company? Okay, we have the purpose, we have our values, but then we need to go out and bring some revenue. Do you do anything like to put that mindset in the women?
Well, I want to say that just because they're not growing as quickly, it doesn't mean that they're not profitable companies. They're just a bit different. They're maybe growing more slowly, and sometimes they're actually, more profitable earlier. You have the customers and everything secured. But it's something that we've discussed, and something that I'm also struggling a little bit with is how much do we want to kind of force women into this male-centric entrepreneurial mindset, and how much do we want to promote an alternative type of entrepreneurship, which is kind of this what women already are doing. Maybe you're building your startup, but you're not doing it around the clock because you also have other commitments. You are more likely than your potential husband to stay at home and also take care of the kids, and you just have many more commitments. So it's natural that it takes more time to build a business. Also, you have much less access to funding, like we talked about, and you have to find the funding in your local network much more so than men. So I think it's a little bit of a challenge to figure out how much do we kind of help women become more like men, and how much do we promote the way that women are already building.
I love that.
Great businesses.
No, I love that, because I really think the women have unique strengths in entrepreneurship. That we could have more, I work with Blue Lobster, so I watch Nima and Christina lead. And Nima, I really like her leadership style, the way she praises, the way she criticizes. I remember, what was it? We were sitting there and she's like, wow, this is such a good company. Isn't it a good company? Everyone, yeah. And then she like praised one of you do such a good job, and you're doing such a good job, Thor. And I'm like, okay, I want to do even better job. Like, and the women that I work with, as they're like the way they're more how to say very diplomatic leadership, which they're very good team leaders as compared. I could never lead a team like I see women leading. As there are many men who can. It's not, but as what I like is that women really have unique skills which are really good, especially in innovation and entrepreneurship, to bring.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, it's not only about the solutions that you build, but also about internally that you build. And I think women have completely different. Again, on a general level, we have a different way of leading, and like you say, maybe we're a bit more collaborative. Not so individualistic, more collaborative, and kind of want to hear everybody's voice before we make a decision, for instance. So again, that's another reason that why we need more female entrepreneurs, because it will also make the environment more included in the environment, right? So you can kind of find your place.
I think it makes. I think if you have like female leaders in it or female entrepreneurs, they're better. It's a very pleasant environment if they do it the right way. Because men are more like you need both, and it also depends on what kind of business you're running or where you're going.
Yeah, exactly. And again, that's not to say that there aren't women who are extremely, assertive and individualistic and know exactly where they're going, and they are building a enormously scalable business. There are those cases too, of course. It's just not an like the statistical truth, maybe.
Yeah, some women when they get, as there are very few women who are good at sales, but once they get it, they're typically the best ones often.
You have to fight that much harder,
Yeah, because once they have like unique skills in sales which men don't have. So you definitely see those revenue women who just go boom.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think if you make it that far, you've kind of gone against the odds, and I would bet on those women who are in the VC world who are building scalable businesses for sure.
But this has been a very interesting conversation. I've definitely gotten a lot of insight on this.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much for having me. It's been nice.
And I think it sounds like you're doing a really good job with women. I think it's important to highlight this, and as I definitely think we need more women in entrepreneurship, and I think women have unique gifts. And I'm not someone who just says it to be liked. As I work with a lot of women. I find out that I think I personally work very well with women. I think they definitely have entrepreneurial strengths that we can contribute to the startup environment in the Nordics.
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad you think that, and I hope more people will think that in the future. And can I just say now that we are here and we're live, that to all the women listening to this, that please consider signing up for the startup school. There's absolutely no risk in doing so. You can complete the modules at your own tempo. You cannot complete them at all, but at least you'll get an insight into what entrepreneurship might be and if it's something for you. So.
Yeah, explore it. As even if you have maybe in 3 years, you might have some startup idea and you're not sure. Just start looking into it, because I think the world is moving much more towards freelance and entrepreneurship. So it could be a good idea to see if it's something for you, if you would like to continue in the corporate environment, or maybe you one day want to go into entrepreneurship.
Exactly. And those tools, as you also know very well, I mean, even if you don't end up building a business, it's just incredibly useful information to have, because it's approach to any type of problem solving, right? So it's never a waste of time, even if you don't end up building your own business.
Yeah, that's a good point, because as the corporate world is looking more for what I call entrepreneurs, or people who can be creative inside, because the world is like changing faster than ever, and the the corporate world is trying to get more digitalized and keep up with the young people. So if you learn entrepreneurial skills, it will definitely be valuable in your career, even if you don't want to work for a startup or go into a startup.
Exactly. Worst thing that can happen is that you learn something, I think.
Yeah, you learn something new, or find out that you don't want to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, exactly. That's also worth something.
Great. So thank you so much. It was a
Thanks
pleasure
so much
talking
for
to you.
having me. Likewise, thanks for having me. It's been a blast.
Have a great day.
And maybe I should say that I didn't look up where the event is, but you can find information on our Instagram and Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever, if you look up With Purpose.
Yeah, your website is with purpose.
Just wpurpose.org. Yeah.
.org, withpurpose.org.
Yeah, wpurpose.org. No with. Yeah.
Great.
Find us there. Thanks for the time.
Thanks for the talk.
Ciao.